Hi, my name's Michael. Today I'll be showing you how to use the Trilogy platform to tutor standardized tests online. The tool on the Trilogy platform that I like to use the most is a share screen button. The reason I like to use that button the most is because I can pull up official tests. I can share my screen with the student so he or she can see what I'm doing, and we could take notes directly on a test so the student can learn that particular information or improve that specific skill. When you're ready to use a screen share, one thing I do recommend is to have the item that you're going to share with the student ready, because this way it'll save a little bit of time. You come across as more professional, and then the student doesn't see perhaps everything that's on your desktop. So what I'll do is right here is a screen share button. So I'll click on that, and now the student can see my screen. And the way I'll test this is I'll ask the student, hey, do you see yourself in the upper left-hand corner? And if they say yes, I know it's working. So then what I'll do is I'll go to the file I'm trying to find. And in this case, I'm working on this SAT practice test number 1. Once you're in the share screen section and the student can see what's on your screen, you might have various PDF drawing tools that you can use to highlight different parts of the test so the student can see what you're working on. I will ask students if they can see what I'm drawing to make sure the screen share is working and they can see what I'm doing. I might say, for example, what did I write here? And they'll say a 2. So this is why I know they can see what I'm doing. If you click on the button that marks A, this brings up a whiteboard that's very helpful for text. Even though we might be a few miles apart or thousands of miles away, I can type on this screen and the student will be able to see what I'm typing in real time. And also, students can interact on the board as well. So I might type something and they could type on the screen as well. So that's very helpful. Most students are very visual. You can see this information. So I like to use the whiteboard function to go over content with students. And on the writing section of the SAT, there's a bit of content you need to know. There's punctuation rules that come up on the test that almost no students know heading into them. So what I'll do is, in order to build that content, I'll write out the main punctuation rules a student needs to know, and I'll list them here on this whiteboard. So I'll go over the 5 main punctuation rules you'll see on a test, and then what I'll do is I'll encourage them to study this over the next few weeks so they know it for the real test, but I'll start showing them how you can apply it to a real test. And in that case, we can use the share screen button again. For example, if I went over comma rules and I went over dashes, what I can then do is say, all right, now that you learned that content, let me show you an example of how you might see that on an SAT. I'll go back to the left side of the screen and click on the screen share button. I'll see a button up top that says share my screen, and then I'll click share. So now what I like to use is a keyboard shortcut called Alt Tab. If you click Alt Tab, you can cycle between the windows on your screen. And it's very handy, you just need one hand to do it. So I'll click Alt Tab, and now I have my test handy. So this is the SAT. So if I just went over dashes, what I can do is I can show an example of where there might be a dash. Here's an example here, and here's an example here. So if I feel the student knew that information from our session from before, I'll ask him or her, why is there a dash here? This way I can test him or her how well they know that content, and then how well they can apply it to a real test. And I can come back to the whiteboard, stop sharing my screen, and we can discuss this in more detail. So that's how you can use both functions on the Trilogy platform: the whiteboard to show them content, and then a share screen to go to a practice test and apply that information. Below the button marked A, you'll see what looks like a triangle. And on this is a very good drawing tool. So I have a graphic tablet, which I'll show you. So it looks like this. So the reason I use this graphic tablet is, especially on math problems, it's sometimes hard to draw with your mouse, but with a graphic tablet, I can draw on the tablet, I can draw shapes and formulas and numbers, and it's just as if I'm with them right next to them with a board or a piece of paper. So I might use my graphic tablet and my pen to grab the pen. I can pick different colors and I can draw things like circles and different shapes. Oh, and then one helpful feature with this is when you're drawing a lot, you'll see up in the upper right-hand corner, there's a little trash bin. So instead of having to sit here and erase everything like this, you can just come to this trash bin and hit clear, and it removes everything instantly. So if I want to go over an equation and have the students understand that equation, I might write a formula such as y equals mx plus b. And I'll ask the student, what do these stand for? So then what I'll do is I'll apply this information to the test. So again, I'll go back to the screen share button, click that. Now the student should be seeing what's on my screen. I'll use Alt Tab to cycle through the windows to get to that test. So you hold Alt down and press Tab, and then a formula that I just went over could be applied right here. So if the student does not know how to do question 12, there are various strategies you can use, but one of them is I'll say, do you remember that formula we just wrote? And hopefully the student will know it. If not, we might go back to it and review it. Or if they're close, I might write it here and have him or her fill it in as we go along. There's a few other buttons that we can use. The camera button would be if I wanted to hold something up to the screen and take a picture of it. This way I can send that to the student. And then if I want to upload different files to send to the student, I can use the button on the top left, which allows me to attach a file, and then we can pull up the file. I could also use this button as a chat. So sometimes I'll use this if I'm doing time management exercises. If I want to do like a countdown and let the student know how many minutes are left, like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, they can look up and see that. And I might do something like this, 5, 4, in terms of 5 minutes left, 4 minutes left. So I give them that visual cue. Finally, in the lower right-hand side, you'll see yourself. So on the main screen, you'll see the student, and then in the lower right-hand corner, you'll see yourself. So if a student is working on a problem, there may be background noise, and I don't want to disrupt the student. So you'll see two buttons in the right-hand corner. One is a microphone that will mute, so students won't hear the background. And then if we're ever having some tech issues, or if a student's working on a problem and it might take 9 or 10 minutes, I don't want the student to feel like I'm staring at them while he or she is doing the work. So I'll turn my video off. I'll still be here, but this way they don't have me staring at them. And whenever, a good tip, whenever you're coming back from a muted session, if it's been more than a minute or two, students are very focused on their work, they're concentrating. So what I like to do when I come back into the session is I'll say something like, hey, Bob, how's it going? I'll whisper so they are not scared or get disrupted, but they can say, oh, okay, I'm on question 4, I'm on question 8. So those are some of the functions of the board that I'll go through with students. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.